US President Joe Biden's memory is being brought into question after a special counsel described him as an elderly man with a poor memory.
And it's after an investigation found he mishandled top-secret files and couldn't remember key life events, including his vice presidency. Special counsel Robert Hur says this forgetfulness would make it hard to bring criminal convictions, but he praised the president for cooperating fully.
Here's what President Biden said, confusing the presidents of Egypt and Mexico at a press conference last night, the same press conference he called to showcase his mental agility.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Well, there you go. That's what President Biden had to say. But joining us now is political psychologist Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Jan, on the show. Now, to begin with, the idea that Joe Biden was suffering mentally in his capacity in one way or another was seen as a bit of a right-wing talking point. Is it now undeniable that there are issues here?
Yes. It is undeniable, but it has been undeniable from day one, even during the campaigning of his. We knew that he was suffering from dementia, but we also knew he had a lot of support. Sometimes what's also very important is who you pick to be within your cabinet to make sure that you've got the right kind of support and the right kind of brain power, making decisions and, you know, maybe holding you up a bit. And he's been held up quite a bit.
Now, Dr. Harper-Hayes, I know that you're a supporter of Donald Trump's, but I suppose we have to ask the question of both of these candidates, both men in their 80s, both individuals who've made recent slip-ups. We've highlighted, of course, President Biden getting confused between the president of Mexico and the president of Egypt, but Trump himself only a couple of months ago said that Viktor Orban was the leader of Turkey, when, of course, Viktor Orban is the leader of Hungary. Does Trump not make these same sort of slip-ups? Could the same sort of points of age and perhaps memory loss not be pointed in both directions?
I should say he is 77 last time I checked.
He'll
Donald
be 80
Trump.
by the end of the presidency.
Thank you for getting the facts right. I like that. All right. Look, age is been coming into it. On one hand, saying Trump did this slip up, and do we want to put a list together of how many slip-ups that Biden has had versus how many that Trump has had? But there's also something else to be aware of about Trump, because he will give at his rallies, purposely, he will make quote-unquote mistakes. Part of it is to bait the mainstream media so that they'll jump on that. It's kind of a deflection. So he might have said 5 years and then 10 minutes later might have said 7 years. So the other thing is that who has the stamina, the perseverance, the intellect? And one of the things that we're talking age, we talk, should we have someone younger? Should someone be more vital? What we have been brainwashed to look at is the charismatic, the superficial, and the flaws. And I think part of that has been so that we will not hold our politicians accountable, because if we're only looking at them superficially, then where is the real criticism of whether they understood what their constituents, what their voters wanted and needed, versus they were giving empty promises and never delivering?
Jan, some will say he's got a big team behind him. Memory doesn't matter too much. It's all about political judgment.
Well, you don't want me to get into the whole cabinet and their political judgment, which I don't think has been the best for our country overall. And setting aside whatever my alliance and my support and my belief in Trump is, I wrote an article and drjan.substack.com, and it is looking at how we have been brainwashed to think superficially instead of what the critical issues are. We want someone who has resilience. We do not need someone who's doing a press conference and we end up seeing the cheat sheets that the president is holding in his hands as Biden has been photographed and broadcast so many times. And then he has to look at it as to who he's supposed to call on. And look, we knew that he wasn't fully there mentally. But what we were more concerned about was, would his administration make the right decisions on behalf of the American people?
Dr. Jan, I've seen Trump having cheat sheets in his hands. There was a famous one that was photographed when he was meeting with some shooting survivors. It had 5 points written in very large text on it, saying things like, be empathetic. Both of these men perhaps have these issues. And I wonder, is this perhaps something that was brought up in the Republican primary? After all, Governor Ron DeSantis launched a website charting all of the sort of hiccups and mistakes that Donald Trump made when he misspoke and misnamed people. All I'm saying is that these are two individuals who've both had these sort of accusations leveled at them.
Okay, are we going to stay on the superficial about this? Because have you never slipped up in what you're saying? I know I have. I know, and I'm a lot younger than them. Well, maybe not that much younger, but I'm younger than them. It happens to the best. It happens to the best of us. But is that really the critical issue that we should be looking at going forward? You know, one of the things I was listening to Emily and the other gentleman, and one of the things that bothered me in what she said was that we've got two old people, and you know, one is more. I'd rather have him because he's more of a space. This is not verbatim, but more of a space cadet because he won't get us into a war, and thinks Trump will. But how many people, when he was running in 2016, said he's going to get us into a war, and he's the only president in 40 years that hasn't gotten us into a war? So we have to also not hold on to those false things, and we need to look at the actions, the behavior. Biden said, oh, I'm going to do unity. I'm going to bring this country together. Well, look, you can't blame him for the divisiveness. You can't blame Trump for the divisiveness. The divisiveness has been going on since Newt Gingrich came in, and that was one of his strategies. It's been going on for decades. So again, if we focus on that versus what has someone done? Do they hear what the people need? Is that the right person? Are they coming up with the right policies, and have they put the right people in to execute on that? And that's what we're looking at.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's great to talk to you. Political psychologist Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes. Really good to speak to you. I think that is a good point just in general about our politics, that there is a push to focus on superficial points.
And very, very right to bring up the 1994 Republican Revolution, when Newt Gingrich finally switched the House from being forever Democrat to being Republican-controlled. The way he did that was relentless political messaging and a greater sense of partisanship, of political divide.